Okay, so hello everybody, good morning and good afternoon by the way, and welcome to the EduphoreIAS, the Hindu live class. Fine, so as usual, we are starting first with yesterday's questions and then we will be starting our discussion related to the today's Hindu itself. Fine, but before that, let us quickly solve the questions. Actually, these were your homework, so I hope you have tried to solve them. Fine. So first is related to, of course, Chandrayaan. Chandrayaan 1 was launched in the year 2008. It's correct. Chandrayaan 2 was launched in the year 2013. No, it was launched in 2019. So this is incorrect. Chandrayaan 3 lander for the first time trying to make landing on moon south pole. No, even Chandrayaan's 2 lander tried to make this landing on the moon south pole. So therefore third statement is even incorrect. Second is incorrect. And fourth, Chandrayaan 3 lander and rover have total of 5 payloads to make a study of the South Pole. No, this is again wrong. This is not 5, rather the payloads are 6. So you see, all the 2, 3, 4 are wrong, means you are left with only and only one pair as correct answer here. I understand this is a difficult question. No difficult question as such, considering the yesterday, 2 days before, whatever going on in the news. But yes, of course, out of 4 statement, you need to eliminate 3. That is really difficult unless and until we don't have factual knowledge about this. Fine. So therefore, first is only correct here. Next question was related to the Northeast. Yesterday we discussed a small piece of article related to Northeast, and that was, though the Northeast is industrially backward, deforestation, floods, and existing industries are causing serious problems to the environment in the region, and you need to comment. The question was for 10 marks, and you need to write the same in 150 words. Fine. So yesterday we have discussed one article related to the protection of the biodiversity in the Northeast, and especially we've seen one of the cases called cleanliness of Umiam Lake versus state of Meghalaya 2023 case of the recent a PIL filed in Meghalaya High Court, and Meghalaya division bench actually ruled over this in this particular case. So there, this High Court mentioned in its judgment that fostering tourism, undertaking construction projects, and developing infrastructure are ways through which a state generates revenue and creates employment opportunity. However, some of them come at a steep environmental cost. Indeed. So again, following the same structure of your answer, IBC in IBC. So in introduction, you can put the same, the recent, the context, the case, the name of this case, and particular High Court division bench orders. Fine. So you can mention that a PIL was filed by this, and in this particular case, this is what's said by the. So this could be just, since it's a 10-mark question, so you can just end up with writing 2 to 3 lines as your introduction. Fine. After that, you need to mention the body. The way I mentioned the first part, though construction is important, fostering tourism is important, but this cannot be done at the cost of environment or the biodiversity protection. Fine. Further, though the Northeast is industrially backward, deforestation, floods, existing industries are causing serious problems to the environment in the region as well. And central and state governments have to develop infrastructure, generate revenue, and create employment through sustainable policies. So this could be the way forward, taking into account the needs, that is Northeast Industrial Development Scheme that came into being in 2017. So therefore, similarly, we could also focus on the Act passed for the Northeast. These are the 2 important things we mentioned from the government's scheme point of view. So therefore, these 2 actually schemes need to be strengthened. Fine, taking into account and of course we need to preserve the biodiversity of Northeast. Okay, at the same time we need to also develop the area as well. Fine, so that should be the structure of your answer. That's it. Let us start with the today's Hindu itself. So quickly, we have lots of stuff today from the Hindu, and okay. So from today is this Okay, so this is the first page, and the story is of course related to Chandrayaan 3 mission. We have been successful yesterday. Yesterday is making soft landing of the lander rover Vikram on the south pole of the moon, and this is for the first time in the history of such moon missions that any country have landed or made its landing successful on the south pole. Fine, so we are the fourth country in the line, after Russia, US and China. India is at the fourth position in making soft landing on moon, but we are first in terms of making soft landing on the south pole of the moon. Fine, so keep in mind this fact. So India lights up the dark side of the moon. Dark side here refers to the south pole of the moon actually, which remains most of the time dark. So you can have, of course, we have also, yesterday we see, we have, witnessed this live telecast of this mission. I hope all of us being aware of the, have been witnessed that. Fine. So let us start first about this. So Chandrayaan 3 lander touches down precisely at 6:03 p.m. sparking celebration. The success belongs to all of humanity. We can aspire for the moon and beyond. This is what our Prime Minister said yesterday. Fine, from South Africa itself. He is in this BRICS summit. Communication link established between lander and mission center in Bengaluru, and rover will do what? Chemical analysis of the lunar surface in the next 14 days, because lunar 14 days is equivalent to, means Earth 14 days equivalent to 1 day of your lunar. Okay, so we'll be discussing this on the editorial page in detail. So hold on for the moment. Let us quickly have a glance at what's important from this page. So we are in favor of BRICS expansion. This is what yesterday, actually, not yesterday, but day before yesterday, we discussed one of the lead article on the editorial page, where we seen that though BRICS currently comprises of just 5 nations, but around 40 nations are there which are interested in actually joining the BRICS. So our Prime Minister has said, though indeed, even India supports this expansion. Fine. Okay. So this is a page, city page from Delhi. Those who are from Delhi do have a look at it. Otherwise, you can skip. And let us quickly go to the other important things. So politics only from the state page. Unless and until anything important, we can skip them. So you have this only politics. Just quickly देखते हैं कि ये editorial page. Yes, so editorial page पे आ जाते हैं, and there are lots of stuff today on this page as well, and the opinion page as well. So you see, first lead article written by Firoz Varun Gandhi is an MP, fine, member of parliament, though a politician you can say, but he has even last month written a very good masterpiece article on internationalization of rupee, and again he has written something on the similar lines related to the need for well-crafted social security net for all. Fine. So it's a very good article. We'll be discussing that. But first of all, let us start with the moon itself. Fine. So on the moon and over the moon, we are now. Chandrayaan 3 signals the launch of India's time in space exploration. Indeed, with this successful mission, we have set our foot stronger on the moon. So what it means, first of all, it had made a history by slowing down, it has created history. ISRO has created history by making this soft landing successful, especially on the South Pole, because we have become the first nation in the world to do in doing so. Apart from that, India is, you see, only the 4th country in the history to have soft landed a spacecraft on the moon, and the first to have done so in the moon's south polar region. Fine. So this feat illustrated a simple fact of complex spaceflight missions by virtue of their enormous hunger for resources, but at the same time capacity for caprice. Succeeding at them is indistinguishable from triumph of human will. Fine. So if you have the will, there is a way, and nothing is, more than a human will. So that is why they are capable of galvanizing people. Apart from that, what will be the immediate implication of this successful mission? So implication of this Chandrayaan 3 lander now sitting on the moon is that ISRO took away the right lessons from the failure of the preceding mission Chandrayaan 2, because I said in the MCQ question itself, we discussed that this is not the first time the Chandrayaan 3 has tried to make soft landing on the south pole of the moon. Even in Chandrayaan 2 mission itself, even there, the lander tried to make soft landing on the South Pole. Fine. So therefore, but though it failed, actually we're not that successful, because in September 2019, as the Chandrayaan 2 lander was 22.1 kilometers above the lunar surface, ISRO actually lost contact with the lander itself. Fine. So that's how the mission actually concluded in 2019 itself, and therefore we had to make another attempt to make it successful, and this is what we did yesterday. Fine. So you can see what we learned, what lessons we learned. So from failure we need to learn, and if you keep on learning, so of course the success would be there one day. And this is what actually proved by Chandrayaan 3 and the ISRO scientists and the ISRO itself. So experts at ISRO then modified 21 subsystems to give rise to the upgraded Chandrayaan 3 lander after Chandrayaan 2 landers unsuccessful attempt. So the latter, that is this Chandrayaan 3, particularly distinguished by the redundancies built into it. If one component or process had failed, another would likely have taken over. Okay? So this is what we improved actually. If from Chandrayaan 2, taking lesson from Chandrayaan 2, we tried to improve upon in Chandrayaan 3 mission, and therefore we built such a system that even in case one system fails, then another could be could take over. Fine. On this failure of the system. So therefore somewhere you can say the scientists tried to build a backup. Fine. Even if there is something in case something fails, then something is there to take over the same. So taking a broader view of time, Chandrayaan 3 sits at an important juncture. Fine. India is now a member of the Artemis Accords. US led multilateral effort to place humans on the moon by 2025. So India has, of course, in this year only, just 2 months back, acceded to our accord, signed this Artemis Accord led by US, and the objective of this Artemis Accord to put humans on the moon by 2025, and thereafter to expand human space exploration to the Earth's wider neighborhood in the solar system. We are trying to now, we are sending Aditya L1 mission, fine, on moon, this sun. Then we are planning to send this a mission to Shukra as well, Venus as well. So given the first that India has now achieved, it has an opportunity to lead the other Artemis countries interested in maximizing the contribution of the space sector to their economies, alongside the US, where Russia and India were not racing to land on the moon this week. Failure of Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft on August 19 foretells the country's ability to contribute in more limited fashion. So Luna 25 की failure हमने देखी थी, कल भी डिस्कस किया था इसको. So what achievements we have set in for the first time? So there are many firsts for the India. First of all, remember in this years we have spent around 615 somewhere, means 600 crores. The budget of this mission was, which is far lesser than the interstellar movie, Hollywood movie. Fine. So therefore we have made it successful with economies of scale as well, economy in our budget as well. So the International Lunar Research Station program, which it leads together with China as parallel axis to the, so China and Russia, of course, having their own sets of objectives and missions. So the Chandrayaan 3 rover is rudimentary and speaks to an important focus area for the Indian space program, and that focus area is planning and implementation of scientific missions. The data from Chandrayaan 3 scientific instruments will be crucial in this case, because the mission will be the first to physically, chemically, and thermally characterize the soil, subsoil, and air near the moon's south pole. Fine. So these are the major achievements that we are going to have. Now India has some measure of technological superiority now compared to most other spacing countries, and it should press the advantage by going to more places in the solar system, not just restricting ourselves to moon, but moving beyond that. So the better space-based scientific instruments currently operated by India are largely concerned with the Earth observation and remote sensing satellites. For example, AstroSat is a notable exception, as the forthcoming Aditya L1, as I mentioned, then ExpoSat, then NISAR, NASA, ISRO synthetic aperture radar missions are expected to be in line. In the relatively recent past, Chandrayaan 1 was scientifically well equipped, whereas the Mars orbiter mission MOM had room for improvement. Better science and results demand more investment in research, both in public and private sectors, rather than spending cuts and missions design that put scientific outcomes before engineering thresholds and launchability. So of course, all this requires better budget, for such kind of missions, then scientific research, how much we spend over, R&D, research and development. So we need to enhance this spending on research and development as well. Fine. So the landing also brings to close to the second phase of India's lunar exploration program. We are ending up with this Chandrayaan-3, the first phase of lunar mission. Now we'll be beginning our second phase of lunar mission with a new sets of. So the third, of course, second phase we have ended up. The third phase will begin with the collaboration between ISRO and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency JAXA for the Lunar Polar Exploration (LUPEX) mission, which is scheduled to be take place in the 24 or by the end of 24 or 25 and the next year in 2025. I mean the next to next year, of course, 24-25. Okay. So which also involves a lander and a rover that will study water ice at the moon's south pole. Fine. So the similar objectives, but with the different sets of mission. LUPEX is said to use the landing system that ISRO developed for Chandrayaan 2 and 3. Fine. Remember, over the time, what happened in 2021 for the Chandrayaan 2 mission, especially the one, ISRO used lots of technology from, let us say, for especially lander and all from Russia, Roscosmos agency. But after failure of, let us say, one of the missions of Russia, and of course, this aftermath of its ill-fated Forbes Grant mission in 2011, it prompted ISRO to develop one on its own. So this is indigenous developed lander and rover. So finally, ISRO is on the roughly fixed path vis-a-vis future missions, which from deviations such as those as a result of Chandrayaan 2 and COVID-19 pandemic. So जो पहले delays हमें देखने को मिली because of failure of Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3, now ISRO is on its schedule to launch the upcoming missions. But challenges क्या हैं? We need to work on the sluggish production of rockets, financially, politically expensive missions हैं. The success of Chandrayaan 3 gives ISRO the confidence to graduate to the next steps. Satellite powered by electric motors, quantum communications, quantum physics, quantum tech की बात कर रहे हैं, human space flight, reusable launch vehicles, planetary habitation and interplanetary communications, to name a few. So all of these areas, of course, remain unexplored for ISRO till now, and now we need to graduate to or move to these areas. The commerce of a space also demands a greater launch cadence. Cadence is basically rhythm and lower launch cost. So of course, अगर commercialize करना है इस चीज को, space को, तो of course we need to work on both the regular launching, alongside that the cutting of cost. Private sector contribution is also important. Fine. So their participation requires, especially to accelerate innovation and open new vistas in which this renewed vector of human enterprise can contribute to India's development. India is over the moon now. From now on, ISRO will have the chance to lead from the front. Right? So these are the immediate implications, or the upcoming implications, or the implication that we see in the longer term because of the successful of this Chandrayaan 3 mission. Fine. Now let us move to the next. Read this article, and that is related to the safety net, social security net. Needed a well-crafted social security net for all. Indeed, because in our country, almost 91% of the population, working population, is especially in the informal sectors. And informal sectors, you don't have provision for, let us say, pension, for EPF kind of facilities, pensions and all, even insurance, for example, accidental health insurance and all. So therefore, majority of the population is not secure socially. Fine. At the macro level, the economy level as a whole baat kare. So right, it is starting with this is how at a times you can start your economy related questions as well, by giving stats or facts. So around 53% of all of the salaried workforce does not have any social security benefits in India, according to the periodic labor force survey annual report. But agar further isko hum break kare agar, so another conclusion is that just 1.9% of the poorest 20% of the India's workforce has access to any benefits. You can see. Meanwhile, gig workers jo hain, platform workers like Swiggy, Zomato and all, Uber, approximately 1.3% of India's active labor force rarely have access to any social security benefit. Fine. And India's social security system is also ranked poorly. Mercer CFS ranked it 41, अगर हम ये 2021 की दे रहे हैं फिगर, हम अगर हम 2022 की बात करें तो यू हैव बीन रैंक्ड 41 आउट ऑफ 44 countries at GPI, that is Global Pension Index, fine, by Mercer CFS, that is US based house. So India's policymakers have largely ignored social security. This is what he is saying by giving two examples. And the first and foremost is in financial year 11 itself, National Social Security Fund was set up. Fine. But the requirement for this fund was somewhere around, you can say, almost 23,000 crore. But government provisioned just made provision of 1,000 crore only for Social Security Fund. So of course you can see this is how Indian policymakers have largely ignored Social Security or the importance of securing people, especially the informal ones. Then another example he is giving, and that is, second is taking, let us say, the National Social Assistance Program that was set up in the 1990s with a focus on old age poor individuals with no able-bodied earners in their household, who are eligible to earn a monthly pension of rupees 75, fine, in the 1990s. But contribution by the center to old age pension scheme has stagnated at 200 per month since 2006. That is way below the minimum wage per day. Fine. जो मिनिमम वेज वर्कर्स को मिलती हैं उससे भी कम पेंशन की प्रोविजन की थी पर मंथ की. नो डाउट टुडे वी हैव लॉट्स ऑफ प्रधानमंत्री व्यय वंदना योजना, lots of schemes for, but of course situation has improved over time, and this is he recognizes in the further paragraphs. So similarly, but we need to of course improve where we are lacking it. So you can see further he is giving examples from two states, Haryana, and of course you can see in Haryana what happened. The CAG noted that the direct benefit scheme of the state social justice and empowerment department had seen the transfer of 98.96 crore to the accounts of disease beneficiaries जो हैं ही नहीं उनको भी मिल गए. Meanwhile, budgetary cuts to the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act continue. तो MG नरेगा के अंडर जो बजटरी कट्स हमें देखने को मिले, बट टाइम एंड अगेन वी हैव सीन कि जैसे जैसे डिमांड बढ़ती है मनरेगा के अंडर वैसे सरकार अपनी बजट्स को रिवाइज भी करती है ओवर द टाइम. सो it won't be right to say that government has kept it constant, or you can say already altogether cut on the budget of this Manrega. So therefore schemes overseas. So he is giving one example from the Brazil, how Brazil's this general social security scheme is works actually. So it is a contribution based scheme, first of all, substituting income loss for a worker whether in partial or full. Fine. So this covers any situation due to an accident at work, a disability that prevents the worker from working, death, and an illness, medical treatment. So you can see that every kind of social security social security related parameters has been covered under Brazilian general social security scheme. Even income loss that occurs due to a worker being imprisoned is covered by low income by the low income insured under this scheme itself. Of 2013 का ही एक scheme. Unemployment insurance is paid from worker support funds, and healthcare is covered through the unified health system. So everything you can see has been covered under Brazilian general social security scheme. Fine. So if you see, approximately 91% of India's workforce works in the informal sector. It lacks access to social security. In 2 decades, India will be an aging society. For such workers with limited savings, there will be no significant social protection. While the Code on Social Security 2020 merged existing social security legislation, it dealt fundamentally with formal enterprises and did not cover informal ones. So though Code on Social Security is a good this legislation on the part of, or law on the part of government, but somewhat it covered you can say exclusively the formal enterprises or sectors and not the informal ones. So this is what he is saying. Fine. So what could be the further suggestions of the steps for India to take, taking lessons from the Brazilian this scheme and all, or analyzing our own set of schemes from the past? So he is mentioning some steps. So steps for India to take. Primarily he mentioned 3 broad principles that need to keep in mind while moving ahead, forward. So first, we must expand employer and employee contribution under the EPFO, Employees Provident Fund Organization. The contribution दोनों की बढ़ानी चाहिए. For informal workers with a meaningful income, partial contribution can be elicited. Fine? कि अगर informal workers भी हैं, उनसे भी अगर meaningful income है, ठीक ठाक income है, तो partial contribution can be taken. Along with persuading informal enterprises to formalize and expand their total contribution. Fine. And for those who are unemployed or have stopped almost looking for a job, you can say, or do not earn enough, the government should step in. Fine. So it is estimated that the cost of this much providing social protection to the poorest 20% of the workforce would be around rupees 1.37 trillion. In rupees term, not in terms of dollars, which is approximately 0.69% of GDP in financial year 2020. ठीक है, तो इतना सरकार कर सकती है. Additional reforms needed. So what are these additional reforms? So there has been some progress indeed. It was heartening to see that the government pushed for code on social security in 2020, which sought to provide statutory framework to enable social security for the urban and rural poor, especially the construction workers, those in gig industry and informal sector workers. It proposed a provision for life insurance, disability insurance, accidental insurance, as well as maternity and healthcare benefits. So these are all the good things associated with the code on social security that government came up with in the year 2020. So he is recognizing all good things about this, but also giving suggestions related to how we can improve upon them. So of course, old age protection and crèche facility for gig workers has been provisioned as well under this particular act. A push for greater digitization under the e-Shram platform has enabled the enrollment of approximately 13 crore workers. Fine. So e-Shram portal actually platform registers the migrant laborers. ठीक है, पोस्ट कोविड हमें देखने को मिला था माइग्रेंट क्राइसिस लार्ज स्केल पे. सो उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट ने ये फैसला किया कि एक हमें इस तरह की प्लेटफॉर्म चाहिए जहाँ पे माइग्रेंट्स जो है वो खुद की रजिस्ट्रेशन करा पाए, सो दैट कि अगर इनके इस तरह की दोबारा कुछ ऐसा होता है कोविड लाइक सिनेरियो, तो सरकार आगे बढ़ के हेल्प कर सके उनकी. ठीक है, सो दैट डेटा गवर्नमेंट के पास हो. However, much more needs to be done. e-Shram puts the burden of registration on informal workers who are required to furnish a self-declaration and share their Aadhaar card. So this is the downsides, and there is no responsibility incentive given to their employer. So he is saying some responsibility should be shared by the employer as well. Fine. So this is his suggestion. We could have done much more, pushing informal employers to make social security entitlements mandatory and not voluntary. ठीक है, तो कहते हैं कि informal workers के लिए भी अगर हम informal employers के लिए अगर हमें ये mandatory कर दें instead of keeping it voluntary जैसा कि provision अभी है, तो it would be a good thing. Greater support is required for financing social security for the majority of India's labor force, moving beyond construction and gig workers. Okay, so further suggestions, there must be a push for pan-India labor force card and an expansion of existing successful schemes such as building and other construction workers schemes to other categories of workers. So all these successful schemes can be further expanded. Special attention is required for domestic workers, especially the females who are never sure when their employment may be terminated. Migrant workers often face discrimination and suspicion from authorities in their working area. So coverage of social services such as child care can be expanded. Domestic workers must also organize themselves across Indian cities or India's cities. Okay? So on existing schemes, so we have national existing schemes, like we need to strengthen existing schemes. For example, the EPF, Employees Provident Fund, then ESI, that is Employees State Insurance Scheme, and the NSAP as well, that is National Social Assistance Program, with budgetary support and expansion of coverage. So both budgetary support बढ़ाने की जरूरत है and expansion of coverage of these schemes as well. Fine. So there is much needs to be done administratively. For example, existing social security framework for unorganized workers has become complex with overlapping areas of authority between the state and the center and confusing definitions being used, such as between platform worker, an unorganized worker, and someone who is self-employed. So all these technicalities and needs to be simplified. We need a more significant push to raise awareness about social security to ensure that more workers are aware of the available benefits. Fine. Organizations such as Self-Employed Women's Association Seva, which run Shakti Kendras, worker facilitation centers, may be funded to run campaigns to provide greater information on social security rights along with services and schemes that government offers. So another very good suggestion that we can and that government can take into account. And the time has come for India to consolidate its existing social security schemes, ad hoc measures, and provide universal social security to its entire labor workforce. With jobs becoming increasingly on demand and higher fire policies proliferating, India's workers are increasingly insecure on the job front. So taking into account such kind of आप देखते हो कि आज की मोस्टली एम्प्लॉयमेंट जो है वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बेसिस हो गई है, हायरिंग फायरिंग एक बड़ा ही पॉवेसिव सा सिनेरियो हो गया है, ठीक है. सो कंसीडरिंग दिस ऑन डिमांड काइंड ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट and hiring firing policies, India's workers are increasingly insecure on the job front. Fine. So to have the fruits of growth trickle down while offering a sense of social security, policymakers must discard supply side shape bullets to embrace policies that enable equitable growth. Fine. So this is how we need to discard supply side focus and to embrace policies that enable equitable growth. Next article is related to India's UK relation, and more or less you can see the writer is United Kingdom's Business and Trade Secretary. She is visiting India, and then her visit would somewhat be focusing on concluding the FTA, that is free trade agreement between India and UK as early as possible. Fine. So therefore, she's writing about India and UK relations. So what is important for us to focus here is that as India's middle class grows to 250 million middle class consumers by 2050, any improvement on our current trading relationship could be a huge boost for UK businesses, because of course India is one of the largest market today. Fine. So UK can benefit from that, and it is no secret that the UK and India share thriving trading relationship, which was worth £36 billion in 2022. So अगर न्यू फिगर्स की बात करें फ्रॉम यूके डिपार्टमेंट फॉर बिजनेस एंड ट्रेड, it has revealed that India retained its position as the UK's second largest source of investment projects. So India is the second largest source of investment or second largest investment maker in the UK. Alongside that, around 100 plus companies operating in, you can say, in the last financial year itself, with 118 new projects creating 8,084 new jobs across the UK. And importantly, she is saying our trade and investment relationship goes both ways. In fact, India's 6th largest investor, UK is India's 6th largest investor, but India is UK's 2nd largest investor. Keep in mind this thing. Between April 2000 and March 2023, the UK has invested almost $34 billion in India in foreign direct investment. UK companies are also creating jobs and growth, and there are 618 यूके की कंपनीज हैं जो इंडिया में ऑपरेट कर रही हैं आज के टाइम में, प्रोवाइडिंग एम्प्लॉयमेंट समवॉट अराउंड यू कैन सी 4.66 lakh. Fine. The ambitious FTA strong partnerships. So she expects that during her visit, the procedures or the steps or negotiations will be further speed up in order to conclude the FTA as early as possible between India and UK. Fine. But she underlines that this India's and UK relationships are not just about trade, fine, but it goes beyond that as well. She's saying, but the UK and India's strong partnership extends far beyond trade and investment into culture, sport, education, and tourism too. Fine. So further she says, our shared love for Bollywood to see this in action, as one of the Bollywood's largest audiences outside India is in UK, and somewhat UK has featured in some of the Bollywood's iconic films such as Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, which was shot in around London's St. Paul's Cathedral. So this is what she is mentioning, that our relations exist even beyond just trade. Fine. So a vibrant Indian diaspora even of around 16 lakh people makes significant contribution across all walks of life in the UK, with Indian students making up one of the UK largest group of international students. So you can see that our relationships are quite broader one, not just based on this trade only. Fine. So एक UK की सरकार ने एक marketing campaign launch किया है that is based on the India-UK relation. The campaign name is Alive with Opportunity of 1.5 million marketing campaign designed to showcase the tremendous bond between the two countries and build on the continuous exchange of people, ideas and culture. Fine. So as a part of UK's ambition to double trade with India by 2030, the campaign aims to stimulate interest and demand for UK goods and services, increase the UK's ability to grow their business through trade with India and attract new Indian inward investment. So over the course of next year, you can expect to see a celebration of the business, trade, culture and sporting links between the UK and the India across billboards, shining a light on this relationship, which is very much alive with the opportunity. So remember, we are fostering a new, this relation with UK that is alive with opportunity campaign, actually launched by marketing campaign, a campaign launched by UK government itself. Fine, for strengthening India's and UK relation. Next topic is related to, we have discussed lots of articles about AI, but today something different, and that is, can AI be ethical or moral? Fine, and moral. So this is particularly important as far as, because this has importance both from the science and tech point of view as well as the ethics GS4 point of view. Fine. So with respect to ethics, so UPSC does ask integral questions in integral manner. So of course there can be a question from this as well. So you see, we'll be starting first of all in GS4. You'd be studying about the Immanuel Kant's theory related to the ethics. So first of all, you see here we have increasingly machines and artificial intelligence are assisting humans in decision making, particularly in governance. Indeed. However, the adoption of AI in decision making is not without its potential pitfalls, because at times AI can have bias inherent to it as well. So biases in AI warrant a whole other he is saying a new article, but this article is about ethics in AI. Can AI be ethical and moral? So ethical challenges की अगर हम बात करें, let us start first of all with the Immanuel Kant's ethical philosophy that we will be studying in the GS4 ethics classes. It emphasizes autonomy, rationality, and the moral duty of individuals. Now he is focusing on these three things. Can AI be autonomous? It can be, but can it have rationality like humans, and can it be at the same time moral as humans? So of course he is saying no, such things are not. Of course morality and at the level of morality and of course rationality, we can question this. So he is further integrating this explanation with the help of arguments related to the Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. So the laws were actually designed to govern robotics behavior, aiming for ethical actions, but within Asimov's frictional world, the laws lead to unexpected and often paradoxical outcomes. So if it was there in this Asimov's world, of course, and that was related to, you can see, fictional world. So in reality, of course, the things would be more complex, more difficult. Fine. So he's of course saying that this is difficult, that we can expect the AI to be moral, like humans. So despite all this, it is inevitable that AI would be used in governance decisions. In some countries, decision-making algorithms are even being used to determine the beneficiaries of social sector schemes. So ethics are complex, programming complex, but programming ethics into machine and AI is even more complex. So he's giving another example from James Moore of the Dartmouth College. Programming a computer to be ethical is much more difficult than programming a computer to play world champion chess, because ethics operate in complex domain with some ill-defined legal moves. So categories of machine agents. So there could be different kinds of machine agents based on AI, but can machines or AI be moral agents or artificial moral agents? So this is a question, fine, which has been addressed in the 4 different principles, you can say, or typology. So here we have from another Moore's 2006 classification, 4 categories of machine agents can be there. The first is ethical impact agents, machine with ethical consequences, like robot jockeys which don't make ethical decisions. The second could be implicit ethical agents, machines with embedded safety or ethical guidelines. The third is explicit ethical agents, which go beyond set rules, using formal methods to estimate the ethical value of options. And third and fourth one is full ethical agents, which are capable of making and justifying ethical judgments, including reasonable explanations like human adults, fine, or mature person. But is it that easy to create AMAs? AMAs are artificial moral agents, fine. The answer simply is no. Why so? Because a peer-reviewed paper has found that from a technological standpoint, artificial agents are still far from being able to replace human judgments in complex and unpredictable or unclear ethical scenarios of the world. But there is another issue of bounded ethically. ठीक है, अब bounded, another issue क्या है? That is bounded ethicality. Now what exactly we understand by the word bounded ethicality? So it has been defined by Hesgendorf and Danks. This relates to a technology platform called Delphi, a research prototype designed to model people's moral judgments. They found in their studies that similar to humans, machines like Delphi may also engage in immoral behavior if framed in a way that detaches ethical principle from the act itself. So this suggests that human patterns of moral disengagement could translate into machine-bounded ethicality. Fine. So today, many machine predictions are deployed to assist in decision making, where a human decision maker retains the ultimate decision making authority. But in times when this altogether decision making would be, somewhat given to or devolved to, let us say, AI or based models or technology, then things could be different. So who will be held responsible? Will the liability fall on the AI system, the developer of the AI, or the official who relied on the AI's data? So this is the biggest question. The notion of punishing the AI system becomes problematic as it lacks the ability to experience suffering or bear guilt. So how would developer or the official then be made accountable? These are the questions which governments would grapple with eventually. Programming ethics into machine is complex and the world must proceed cautiously. Okay, we have discussed in another sets of articles that of course things are becoming easier with the introduction of AI and machine learning and all these techs, but of course there are certain issues involved with with them, like for example ethics and morality. So yesterday we discussed about NCAP, that is the Government of India, Ministry of Road and Transport and Highways especially, has rolled out an indigenous star rating system for crash testing cars, under which vehicles will be assigned between 1 to 5 stars, indicating their safety in collision. Fine, crash testing basically. So what is exactly is the NCAP? So you can see that is Bharat New Car Assessment Program. New Car NCAP Assessment Program. So though Bharat NCAP is voluntary, in certain cases cars may be subject to crash test, such as for a base model of a popular variant, let us say. But the testing protocols adopted by the Bharat NCAP are modeled on the global NCAP we discussed yesterday. So what we need to discuss today from this article is the way forward. What are the solutions or the way forward we can take from across the world? What are the different examples? So India will need to develop its crash testing capabilities and knowledge expertise for the Bharat NCAP program to be implemented meaningfully, such as software system wired to the dummies placed inside cars to assess the nature and extent of injuries to analyze the score. So we need to come up with the software system which can analyze the nature of injuries and analyze the score, the safety score. So over the years, India will also have to align Bharat NCAP with the global standards. This is second suggestions, by expanding testing parameters. For example, the US NCAP also includes rollover test, which tests whether a vehicle is vulnerable to tipping up on the road in a severe maneuver or not. Next, another example is Japan's NCAP, cover electric shock protection performance after collision, performance of neck injury protection in a rear end collision, passenger seat belt, reminder evaluation, evaluation of pedestrian protection technology. So all these can be learned from Japan itself. Fine. Further moving to what next we can learn. So as an autonomous emergency braking system, lane departure prevention system, rear view monitoring system, and pedal miss application, among others. So all these can be this included in NCAP moving ahead further. Okay, so this is related to, of course, this is not that relevant. Now quickly let us move to the news. Miscellaneous facts. What could else be important from the prelims exam point of view particularly? So India welcomes consensus based approach to expand BRICS, said by Prime Minister. He is in Johannesburg attending the BRICS summit, fine, which is hosted by Africa this time. Okay, Modi and Xi likely to attend East Asia Summit, ASEAN meetings in Jakarta. So we are expecting that both the leaders again meet in these two forums, East Asia Summit and ASEAN meetings in Jakarta. Upcoming meetings. So of course, it would be good the more they meet, the more things could be, or you can say it would be better for the two countries. So this full page is related to the Chandrayaan mission, successful mission. What else important from the exam point of view? This national curriculum framework proposes board exams twice a year. So this is important from, there are many suggestions given by this NCF. So classes 9th and 10th will need to learn 3 languages, of which at least 2 will be Indian tongues, fine. In class 11th, 12th, students will have to learn 2 languages, 1 being of Indian origin, says the final national curriculum framework released by NCRT. So currently students in classes 9 and 10 study 2 languages and students in class 11 learn 1, but now it will be 3 and 2, not just 2 and 1. So this is the major change. NCF has also said that all the students will be allowed to take board exams at least 2 times in a school year, with only the best scores being retained. But before that, we need to remember that NCF was drafted by none other than the National Steering Committee headed by former chairman of the ISRO, K. Kasturirangan. Fine, follows the lead of the National Education Policy 2022, because even NEP was, this committee was chaired by K. Kasturirangan. Fine. So what are the other changes? So optional subjects have been grouped in 3 parts in the NCF. The first includes art education, emphasizing both visual and art performing arts, with equal emphasis on the making, thinking about appreciating works of art. It also includes physical education and vocational education. The second group relates to social sciences, the humanities, interdisciplinary areas, and the third group includes science, mathematics, and computational thinking. So there are 3 different you can say parts in the NCF related to the optional subjects, that what the students can pick as their optional subjects. ठीक है, so ये इन चीजों का ध्यान रखना है. Apart from that, what else important is, at the secondary stage, there has been significantly redesigned to offer more flexibility and choice for students. There is no hard separation between, let us say, academic and vocational subjects, or between science, social science, art, and physical education, or fine. So there is no hardcore separation between these two. Now, environmental education is given emphasis across all stages of a school, fine. And apart from that, the textbook for class 3 to 12 are to be aligned with 21st century requirements, making them rooted and futuristic. This is what said by Education Minister by releasing this NCF committee recommendations. Fine. So this from the world page, not that important. Okay. So that's it as far as today's Hindu analysis is concerned. Quickly, let us have a look at today's question. I mean, the questions based on today's analysis itself as your homework. So quickly, the first is related to the NCF itself. National Curriculum Framework has been chaired by K. Kasturirangan. The NCF has suggested 2 language formula for class 9th and 10th students. And according to NCF, all the students will be allowed to take board exams only once. You need to find the correct answer. And second is, can AI be ethical and moral? Critically examine for 10 marker. You need to mention the write the same in 150 words. So that's it as far as today's Hindu analysis is concerned. If you have any query, anything, we'll put the same in the comment section. Until then, take care, keep revising, and do attempt this question. Fine. Stay tuned for tomorrow's Hindu analysis. Thank you.